All right, so apparently we're DevRel All-Stars. I didn't actually know that until yesterday when I saw the invite for the event. So, it's there. Sorry. Yeah, we've got two. So, so Wolf and I both work on the Android team in Mountain View, and I have been in what I would call game developer relations, and working with game companies for about 3 years now. And in Android, push it on the bottom, sorry. Push on the bottom. Hello. There we are. Hello. So in Android terms, that makes me, comparably ancient. So when I joined the Android team, we had not yet released the Froyo version of Android. So, it's been a crazy road. And I actually wanted to start off with the usual, with this talk, talking about a little history. Let me let Wolf introduce himself first.
Hello, I've been at Google for 2 years, and before that I was a game developer. I worked for Sega and with Nintendo and a bunch of other things. So it's been a lot of fun. Did a lot of startups in California, but I had to join Dan because he's so cool.
Well, and more importantly, Google is a giant startup.
Yes. So. Well, it's really about 25 startups strapped together.
Exactly. So, you're going to go for a startup, go for the biggest startup.
Exactly.
So we're going to talk about Android 4.3, and I'm going to actually talk about both Android 4.3 and some of the stuff we announced at I.O., just so to make sure everyone understands, kind of where we are as a platform. I look at Android as a composite of really two things. One is the actual platform itself that we know as Android 4.3 or Jelly Bean Maintenance Release 2, which is very important. But we also have, of course, an entirely separate set of services that we roll back to as many Android versions as we can. And this allows us to move those services at the speed of the internet, really. So we can iterate on them really, really rapidly. So I want to cover at least the basic stuff that we announced at I.O. Because it's really cool. And it may actually even appeal to game developers. How many of you in the audience are game developers, first of all? Is anyone programming?
You! I love you, man.
All right, so yeah, exactly. So we're
actually, I have a couple of questions. How many of you are engineers? Pretty much all of you. And how many of you are at startups?
Cool. Excellent. So, so we're going to go through a couple things. I'm going to show this video next, partially because it's just interesting. I'll try to pinpoint when I actually joined Android. And you might have seen this video already, but you might not see it on a screen this large, which makes it all the more impressive. So I think, let's see if I can find out when I joined Android approximately in this map. That's about right. That's about where I was. Right there, right at that point. So we thought that was a big number back then. This is one of those times when you have a guy who's already going, turn it up, turn it up. I don't think he looked excited enough about that. I know. But yeah, it's a crazy number of handsets, but and tablets and all the other Android devices that we've shipped over the years. And the thing that we talked about at I.O., which I wanted to kind of point out, is that we've covered a lot of the non-fast-growing pieces of the world now with Android handsets. We expect to sell a lot more in that area. They're going to be great, but obviously there's this entire part of the world that, in fact, we've really just begun to see. All of these emerging markets are actually going to explode. For a lot of these emerging markets, this is not only the first time they've had a smartphone, but it's the first time they've actually had real connectivity. And so it's actually opening up this information age that we're in to all of these countries. So it's not just about gaming, which is really exciting. I'm excited they're going to get exposed to games, but also they're going to get exposed to all of the knowledge that we now see on the internet. and what that's going to mean for a lot of these places, and the great change they're going to see in the coming decade because of this. So to me it's exciting. It also shows there's enormous market and enormous potential left untapped.
And all of these people will soon have cat videos.
Absolutely. They've been denied internet videos. So another thing that I'm really excited about is that we are now at a point where the most popular version of Android that's checking into Google Play is Java. So these are active devices. We now see more of those than any other. And that's really cool because, one, it means that all these users are used to seeing things with the latest version of Android. They're used to seeing our hollow UI. And what this means is that we're actually seeing that people are now starting to expect applications to work well on hollow devices, which now comprise 63% of the active market, as well as on tablets. They're really expecting all the things we've done to make fragments work, to allow applications to work very, very well and to perform automatically to tablets and phones. This is just sort of the expectation now with Android, with the market now being where it is. So I'm going to talk quickly about the Play services stuff we announced at I/O, because it really is an important part of our platform. A lot of people say, well, where's the next version of Android? Well, actually, a lot of it's here. And a lot of it is something we've been iterating on very rapidly over the last year. So it's really the other piece of the puzzle. We first started off with the Google Maps Android API, which allowed full version of vector maps for applications. Very, very powerful. Our new location services. And we just added onto those. We have the Fuse location provider. And this allows for us to get better accuracy, lower power. Okay, that's the way you should see it as a developer. With this, we also announced the ability to have geofencing. And I actually see this as a great opportunity for both game developers and non-game developers. You can actually set up these very, very low power geofences. Your app can actually have up to 100 of them without really impacting the power on the device all that much to make your application do cool stuff when the user comes home, when the user goes to work, when they visit friends. All of a sudden, your phone gets smarter. And we're enabling all these things for applications. So I'm excited about that. Of course, a lot of things I'm excited about. I'll say that a lot. Activity recognition uses the accelerometer to try to determine what the user is doing, whether they're walking or riding a bike or in their car. And this allows applications just to be smarter. And because it's using the accelerometer, it's actually very, very low power. We try to actually use very, very low sample rates in the accelerometer. So you can do this very, very safely without draining the battery. Find out more about what the user might be doing and tailor the experience. So that covers our new location things. We also, of course, introduced Google Plus signing as part of this. And I'll talk about that more when we talk about our game services. So Google Cloud Messaging. We actually took what we originally had with cloud-to-device messaging and scaled it way up to be Google Cloud Messaging. And I'm excited to say that we actually are now at a point where 60% of applications on Google Play are actually taking advantage of it. And we are sending just a ridiculous number of messages, 17 billion messages a day, which translates with a 60 millisecond average latency. And that translates into 200,000 messages every second. And to give you an idea, this latency here, even though we're sending an enormous number of messages, it's actually 30% faster than when we launched the service a year ago. So this has made an enormous difference to Android applications. And finally, we also added some features to Google Cloud Messaging. One of them is we allow for persistent connections. So this is great because it allows your server to actually send bulk connections to Android users. Because the back end is so robust, we can handle floods of messages, which is exciting. I'll say that again. And we also allow you to use that same infrastructure to actually contact your server directly as well with upstream messaging. So this means that at very, very low power, these messages can be packed along with all the other network transactions that we're doing with cloud-to-device messaging. And once again, you can get messages up to your server. So if it's not an extreme, I need to have this right now, you can really, really reduce the power load for your users. Again, very, very important. We also use this to implement great features, such as notification synchronization. So this is a new API as well as part of Google Cloud Messaging that allows you to do stuff like when the user dismisses a notification on one device, to have it automatically dismissed on the next.
That's like my favorite. That's like my favorite thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you have tons and tons of notifications coming in, it's great to actually see, oh, I haven't seen that, I haven't responded to that on each device. It's a great thing for your app to do. And again, the more that every application is responsible about handling notifications, the more valuable notifications are for everyone. So that's what we did with cloud messaging. Also, I'm going to talk about this later in detail, but we launched Play Game Services with features that users really want: cloud save, achievements, leaderboards, and multiplayer. And we did it cross-platform. So this was really huge because consumers are like, well, we really want this on Android, and we also have other devices, and we'd like to be able to share all of our achievements with our friends, with our other devices, and so we actually are coming out with full support on all three platforms, if you hadn't already known. So that is the Google Play Services side of the platform update, and we're going to go in depth on game services in the next presentation, because that's what I do. We also announced Android Studio at I/O. How many of you have actually gotten a chance to play with Android Studio yet? So really excited about that. We think that it's really going to, in the long term, make Android development more efficient. It's going to allow you to more accurately target devices and build better UI. It's still in beta, but we encourage you to use it, give feedback. I think we've iterated on it about 9 times since I/O. We also are continuing to update the NDK. Really great thing we've done is we've added Clang support. So now you can either use Clang or GCC to build NDK applications. And in many ways, Clang with LVM is kind of the future of compiler technology. So it's great to have it available to Android users today. We see it having, in general, better code optimization, better speed. So that's kind of the non-platform stuff. But let's talk about Android 4.3, which is really the reason why I came here. Now, we have some really cool giveaways out here. Okay, really, really cool stuff. So I have a completely trivial, ridiculous, unimportant question for you all. And whoever gets this can taste who's their pick of this very, very, very cool stuff we have up here. Okay, yeah, so the question is, does anyone know what we called Jelly Bean MR2, the tagline for it?
Revenge of the Beans?
That is exactly it, Revenge of the Beans. All right. So you'll come up later. You have your pick of those. Okay, yes. Why we did this, I have no idea. But it is called Revenge of the Beans. That's actually how it shows up in the documentation. So, and it is API level 18, so it's all grown up. And, all right, 18 is
You can finally drink in the United States.
Yeah, exactly. And let me talk about what we've done. So first of all, you'll notice this without actually having to do any work. A lot of UI stuff is faster. And the reason why is we've introduced a major change in the hardware-accelerated 2D rendering pipeline in this concept of reordering and merging. Now, how many of you have worked with OpenGL out there? So if you've done a lot of work with OpenGL, you'll know that, especially on mobile devices, that state changes are very, very painful for the GPU to handle. They're expensive operations, and they slow everything down. They stop the pipeline often, stall the pipeline, and force us to wait while the state change is processed. So this is a dialogue, and we would draw this dialogue in Android 4.2 like this. So in Android 4.3, the first thing we do is reorder. This eliminates most of the state changes right there. So you can see now all the checkboxes are drawn at once. These are 9 patches, and then all the text is all drawn, again, in order. And that got us a lot of performance, because now we can actually reuse the same shader for each set of drawing operations. We looked at it, we said, we can go further than that. And if you've ever done a lot of work with OpenGL, you know that you can create index buffers to go along with your VBOs And that's actually how drawing text ultimately works. We can make just a little bit of a larger buffer. You can draw more text at once in more places on the screen. So it turns out that we can actually take these and merge them together into single drawing commands just by making slightly bigger index buffers. And all of a sudden now we're drawing both checkboxes at once, both 9 patches at once, and all the text at once. Another thing we've done is pretty cool. How many people have worked with RenderScript out there? Anyone? Anyone? So RenderScript is great because it allows you to take advantage. Oh, you've worked with it. The one person I didn't see, I'm sorry. Allows you to take advantage of the multi-threaded aspects of Android, multi-core, and even GPU. So even using the GPU as a computational device without actually having to know anything about the system you're running on. That's its target goal, is it allows you to get a little bit of performance benefit without you having to actually go into detail about what architecture I'm running on. So we use this now actually inside of the user interface of Android to handle multi-threaded rendering of things we can't do on the GPU yet. So examples of these things that we don't do on the GPU is generating drop shadows. So drop shadows are painful to do on the GPU, so we actually render this entirely on the CPU. So basically, now when we're drawing our scene, we actually fire up the RenderScript kernel, and we'll say, we need to generate drop shadows, and we'll send that piece of work into RenderScript. And it will parallelize it depending on the number of CPUs that we have available on the device. So in this case, we are on a quad-core machine, so now all 4 of those drop shadows are automatically being rendered at the same time by the RenderScript kernel. We also do it to do path rendering, which is another thing we can't yet do on the GPU. And so once again, this just allows the UI to be faster. But it also really shows off the benefits of what people can do with RenderScript. Again, our system doesn't have to know anything about the architecture of the device in order to take advantage of parallelized computing. So another thing we added, which a lot of people should be really happy about, is we now support hardware-accelerated non-rectangular clipping. This actually, to me, is my favorite developer-facing feature that we added in the drawing pipeline of 4.3. So that's all you have to do. Flip path. Fabulous, okay? So once again, makes things a little bit better. We've enhanced our profiling. So, we're developing all of these new great enhancements in speed. How did we determine that they actually worked? Well, they looked back and they said, God, this is kind of hard to do. So let's actually add some more profiling features for GPU rendering. So you can turn GPU rendering on, profiling on, excuse me, and you end up getting here graphs in every single window that your application is drawing in. So you actually see we have 3 graphs in this window. You can see it down at the bottom. That's actually a window. Way at the top there is a window, and then this is your application surface. That's actually a window. Note there's not a lot going on at the top and bottom windows because they don't change very much. The colors indicate the time spent issuing drawing commands in blue, and creating them in blue, issuing them in orange. And what you can see there is that the green line indicates 60 frames per second. So you can see in this particular application, which is pretty simple, we're almost always way under that 60 frame per second area. We aren't glitching. But you see at one point we did actually manage to glitch and we dropped a frame. So it's very, very easy to see whether your application is regularly dropping frames. Obviously, applications that are smooth, especially on these newer devices, people expect things to be very smooth, just have a better user experience. And again, if your application has more windows, or in this case, an activity that's popped up, you'll see additional graphs for each window. Another thing that we've done is we've enhanced systrace. Now, how many developers out there have used systrace? Oh, cool. Systrace is awesome. Okay, it is a little bit challenging to set up, but once you've set it up, you will realize it's invaluable for figuring out whether or not you are CPU bound or GPU bound, and helping you to tune your applications so they perform really, really well. And we've added some really cool features to systrace. You can now collect trace data from hardware modules, kernel functions, and the Dalvik VM, including garbage collection. And just so I don't miss anything, I want resource loading. We also actually introduced a new API around systrace, which allows you to actually specify sections of traceable code within your application. So you can actually see along with the graph, you can actually see where your code is spending its time just by augmenting it like this, labeling it like this. So that's what we've done around faster UI. A feature that I have been waiting for forever is real support of the platform for Bluetooth LE. Because there are so many cool devices out there that, like the one I'm wearing now, that support Bluetooth LE to do really, really cool stuff. Whether it's tracking the watering that's going on of people's plants to helping them with fitness. All of these things rely on the fact that Bluetooth LE allows for very short duration, very, very low power connections. And people have been clamoring, please make a standard API for it. There were a couple of other APIs that were actually introduced by OEMs. So now in 4.3, there's actually a standard way to talk to these devices. We've introduced this workflow, which is really standard. Does anyone have an LE device, programmed LE, or so it's very, very cool. Basically, you can imagine Bluetooth is already pretty low power. With Bluetooth LE, you can often do a lot of the same things you're doing with Bluetooth on devices that are not sending a lot of data for 100 times less power. Like, just imagine being able to operate your devices on a battery that's 100 times smaller or 100 times longer. And that's the kind of stuff Bluetooth LE can do. Again, it's not doing constant communication. Bluetooth LE is all about short bursts of communication, being able to have very, very responsive devices. So how do we do this? We start by scanning. We get a discovered device. Then we get a callback to connect. And then we can actually set what characteristics we want to get notified of, because that's how GATT works. This is, by the way, the GATT protocol that Bluetooth LE runs with. And then, finally, one thing to note about all of this is that we only support kind of host-client mode. So you can't go from device to device without Bluetooth LE implementation. So it's still a way for you to talk to low-power devices, not a way to talk to other Android devices. I hope someday we'll support both, but that's the current state of things. All right, restricted profiles. I love this feature because I work with a lot of game developers. And it turns out that people have children. And
it happens to you after a while.
Yeah, our extensive research has shown. So last year we actually introduced a feature that was really great for people who were sharing a tablet with other people in their household. And it was multiple profiles. Has anyone used multiple profiles out here? Just to, yeah, okay, a couple of you use it. But right now what we've done is actually made it so that you can actually share your tablet with someone who is of the lesser stature in your household. It doesn't necessarily have to be your children. I've had plenty of roommates who I would only put on restricted profiles.
Stop buying games.
Stop
buying games.
Exactly. I'm sorry, I know the way you drink. You're on a restricted profile on my machine. Thank you. So now you can set up these restricted profiles. And this is very, very cool because your applications can do a lot of things with them. So you can actually, in addition to basic things like, don't let this guy buy anything on my account, please. You can also register application-specific restrictions. So if your application wants to appeal to parents, for example, and I've heard there are some that do, you actually can send restriction entries. So here is an application, which is a great one, by the way. It's made by a company in Ireland, as I recall, and they do these fabulous interactive storybooks. They actually support restrictions. And so they actually have things like a parent center. You can make it so that the child can't change the language into something they can't understand. And even things like being able to just say, I don't want you to display any purchases whatsoever within the application or anything about advertising. You turn it right off. Your application can allow the user to turn it right off there. Because for a lot of parents, if they see that an application is advertising to their children or asking their children to spend money, that ends their experience with that developer right there once and for all. So again, if you're trying, and again, they can turn it on. They can say, wait, maybe they want to have that feature, but they don't want to allow them to actually buy it until they come to mommy or daddy, which is probably what I would do. So, and this is very, very easy. your application can set up a restriction receiver, and you end up getting notified. You have different types of restrictions in our default UI. So you can actually support Boolean, choice, or multi-select types. Very easy. And you can also, this is an example of a Boolean type, single choice type, and also that's how you retrieve them. And then you can also actually do a custom activity. So if our types aren't enough for you, if you want to go even deeper than what we allow, you can actually have your application pop up a custom activity and give whatever kind of UI you want. But again, we try to make it easy, so we actually give a bunch of defaults. They cover a lot of use cases. So that is restricted profiles. This one is near and dear to my heart because GLES 3 finally takes OpenGLES and starts doing a bunch of things to make the mobile ecosystem better that have needed to be done for a long time. I'll talk through some of my favorites. I'm not going to cover all of OpenGLES 3. Okay. Now, what's cool is if you have a Nexus 4 or a Nexus 10, your device just got updated to support OpenGLES 3. The hardware supported it from day one. And we expect a lot of devices that share similar hardware to get these GLES 3.0 updates. So this is not some crazy futuristic technology that no one has access to yet. There are plenty of people with devices right now. And of course, the new Nexus 7 we just launched, not here yet, but coming soon, I'm sure.
It's great.
Supports OpenGLES 3 out of the box. So we added a lot of things to improve compatibility. I should say we being Kronos and the GLES group, not me particularly. One of the things that was problematic in GLES was we had ambiguity in render buffer formats. So this meant that if you actually tried to use render buffers in your application, you would realize very, very quickly that it might not work exactly the same on another device. So one is we've clearly specified the formats now, and we've also added formats. And another thing we've done is we've made all GLES devices support 4 active contexts. Now, the reality is every Android GPU past the G1 has basically supported at least 4 active contexts, but it's nice to see it get codified in the standard. We also have to support textures of various sizes. I'll talk about that in another slide. But this is huge. So how many of you are familiar with texture compression out there? So today on Android, we have multiple kinds of texture compression. We have DXTC, which is used by Tegra devices. It's on the original Nexus 7. It's the texture compression of choice, being that it's the best compression and the most flexible. We had ATI-TC or AMD-TC, depending on how you want to call it, which is used by Qualcomm chips as its proprietary format. We have PDR-TC, which is used by things like the original Hummingbird chip that was in the Galaxy Nexus, the Nexus S, and actually it's also used in the Galaxy Nexus, which is an OMAP chip. And then we had ETC1, which was on just about everything, but it had quality problems with high-frequency data, and it didn't support alpha texturing. And it only supported 4 bits per pixel. So some of these other texture compression formats actually supported 2 or fewer. So we haven't fixed all of the problems, but ETC2 is kind of a brilliant design. It actually works off of ETC1, and they went and looked. They said, is there anything that we're not using bitwise in ETC1 that we could use to build a better format? And they realized that yes, there were some combinations of bytes that actually turned into errors in ETC1 that they could use to create new block compression types in ETC2. And they very carefully chose these so that ETC2 could be compatible with ETC1. In fact, the hardware doesn't even need to know what it's decoding. It can take the exact same bit stream from ETC1 or ETC2 and decode it on the fly. But they used the new block types that they added to address the problems, the limitations of ETC1. So here's an example. This is from Ericsson, who invented ETC, Ericsson Texture Compression. So it does show it off in a very positive light. But you can see here blow-offs from these three textures. And so the original texture looks like this. DXTC, which is the most popular desktop one. You can see a lot of block artifacts here. This is very typical of DXTC when dealing with actually very, very low frequency data. So it turns out images and pictures often have issues with DXTC. ETC1 actually looks okay. But you see with high frequency data like text, it makes very, very heavily blocky artifacts. And with ETC2 we get a nice combination. It actually is the highest quality on both of the picture images, and it delivers good quality with the high frequency data. So all of a sudden we have the ability to improve quality, but remember, ETC1 actually is just a superset. ETC2 is a superset of ETC1. So in fact, it turns out this image and this image actually share most of the same blocks. So if one wants to add improved texturing, one can actually build and bundle just a set of blocks that's going to be useful for and add quality for ETC2, merge the two together, and display that on a new device while still maintaining compatibility with ETC1. The other thing I wanted to mention was EAS, which I didn't have anything on the slide about. But EAS adds alpha support to ETC. So now with OpenGL ES 3.0, we have a required texture compression format, which one, delivers very, very high quality. In many instances, at 4 bits per pixel, it delivers the highest quality of any of the other formats, depending on how you define quality. And there's huge debates on that. And then 2, it also provides for a very nice alpha format. GLSL ES3 takes the shading language of OpenGL ES and actually brings it much more up to date with desktop GL. So shaders can pretty much be compiled across both of them. There are still some additional things like there are precision levels that are in GLSL that are not in desktop GL, but for the most part, you can take shaders and compile them across now, which really, really helps out everyone doing cross-platform development. Almost everyone does in some way or another today between desktop and mobile GL. Occlusion culling. Once again, you might not want to have to render your entire scene to figure out what one object occludes another. This allows you to do a depth test and check to see whether an object passes or fails the depth test before rendering the scene. Depending on the hardware, this could be much, much faster than rendering the scene, or not. And my hope is that it's implemented well. But there's no guarantee on that one, but this is, again, an optimization that may make sense. Geometry instancing is very cool because it offers an extremely fast pipeline to reuse geometry. And you can already do a lot of this with BBOs, but what you can do with geometry instancing is take it to the next level. You can actually, with the exact same piece of geometry, you can imprint it on the screen multiple times. Simple transform, all done in the shaders without having to move any memory around yourself. All done internally to the driver. So this is going to allow for hordes of the zombies to be rendered faster and cheaper than ever before. And who doesn't like games with hordes of zombies? All right, actually, I know some people don't like zombies. And of course, rich texture features. We have depth textures. We have 3D textures. We have and we guarantee support for floating point textures. Great things for HDR. Rendering, and we also support non-power of 2 textures, guaranteed, and 1 and 2 channel textures, so R and RG textures as well. So just a lot of flexibility around texturing. You don't have to worry about making sure that your textures are square anymore, which is kind of, power of 2 square anymore, which is kind of awesome. Also allows you, in theory, to make better use of texture memory. So that is only part of what OpenGL ES3 gives you. There's a lot of stuff. Oops.
There's an entire galaxy of
There's an entire galaxy of things that it gives you.
Those are all jelly beans, actually. Glowing jelly beans.
Is that what those were? All right. So we've also enhanced a lot of stuff in the media stack. And again, a lot of stuff here. First of all, modular DRM framework doesn't sound that exciting, but it's really going to allow content providers to bring a whole bunch of content to Android they haven't been able to bring in the past. It allows them to plug their net protocols in with our encode and decoding hardware. So it's going to mean that video is smoother and faster and higher resolution. And it's going to help some of the best content come to Android that people might have been queasy about before because they had to use our DRM entirely. VPA encoding is now supported. Yeah. VPA encoding is now supported directly in the platform. Where it can be hardware accelerated, it will be. So we see chipsets now that are supporting VPA encoding in hardware, but otherwise you can take advantage of our built-in encoder, guaranteed to be there on 4.3. You can also do video encoding from a surface. So if you've ever tried to encode output from your application in Android, first of all, in 4.2, before 4.2, you couldn't even use the hardware encoder. So 4.2 added the ability to use the hardware encoder to encode video, which is pretty cool. However, we didn't define it all that carefully, and so it was very, very difficult to actually use it across devices. The buffer formats were a little bit different. Once again, just like OpenGL defined its buffer formats, we actually went and defined the buffer formats carefully for what the compressor now takes. And we allow you to just specify a surface. So you can render out OpenGL, or you can render out Canvas stuff to a surface, and that surface will now be, every time you do EGL draw, EGL draw buffer, EGL swap buffer, it'll actually go and encode that frame for you, which is again, going to allow for people who really want to share video from their application, consumer-generated video. They can put it up to YouTube, which is great. It's great for your application. Consumers love it. It just makes that much easier to do. If you want to have audio that goes along with that video, we also added a media mixer. So before, this was something, if you wanted to actually have video with audio, you had to do it all yourself. Now, built into the platform, we have that. Again, this is not surface. I was going on to the next slide already. So this is actually how you get a surface, by the way, in order to encode. So basically, it's very simple. You just call create input surface. One thing to note here, for those who are watching, yes, it's still difficult to do live video recording of your app because you still have to draw to two separate surfaces. So if you wanted to do this, you might want to actually draw into a buffer and then split the buffer to both surfaces rather than redraw the scene, depending on the complexity of your scene. But it will make it a lot faster. There's a lot less passing of buffers around and memory allocation and all of those things that could possibly happen. So it's still not exactly what I want for live video recording, but it'll allow you to do a lot. Media mixer, just talked about that. And then we've added some stuff to the remote control clients. So we now allow you to use scrubbing, which allows you to have a thumbnail you move around within a scene from a remote control client. And again, you just get these position updates. Very, very nice. And you can also, and again, you can just send them out as well. Not going to go into any detail there. And then finally, we support AVRCP 1.3. This is a great user feature as well. It allows devices that support AVRCP 1.3 to actually get better metadata. So you can actually get things like bitmaps, for example, now from radio players that are working on Android. So again, just more integration with Bluetooth peripherals. And I think, I almost forgot. One of the best features, test automation. So basically what this allows you to do is you can get an instance of this UI automation class, and now you can actually inject motion events and input events right into the event loop. So once again, making it very, very easy to execute your tests, get results, and again, you do this just by doing any other automated test on Android. You can execute right from your command line. So this is going to make it impossible to test a whole variety of applications in an automated fashion that were very difficult to test in the past. All right, can't end this talk without talking a little bit about Android on TV. So one of the things that was not one of the highlighted announcements of Google I/O that was near and dear to my heart is that we announced that Google TV is actually getting Jelly Bean. And with that, it gets the latest version of Chrome, it gets all the Project Butter updates to make things really smooth, and it actually finally gets access to the NDK. Which means that all of a sudden, it's going to become a really cool gaming platform. We see a lot of uptake for it, and this is a Korean advertisement for the U+ network in Korea. They're shipping out 50,000 set-top boxes a month to users in Korea. Again, all Google TV enabled. And in fact, my understanding is they even have a backlog on this, or they can't ship them out fast enough. So what you need to do is, if you want to have your application work with those devices, make sure that you have a touchscreen or party installs, because otherwise they won't be able to see it. And of course, make sure that you test your application with a keyboard or something equivalent with four-way navigation. It's going to be a very cool game platform at the end of this year. Also, there's other Android TV devices like the Samsung HomeSync, which is a terabyte hard drive in it, or even this Mad Catz Mojo, which is an Android-based microconsole. So once again, we're starting to see Android creep its way into the living room as kind of a third screen experience, and that's just great for consumers. So that is my what's new in Android deck. Of course, you can find out all of this at developer.android.com, and make sure that you actually include plus Android developers in your circles, because you'll get all sorts of new information from us. All right?
And many videos of Dan.
Yes, and unfortunately, you'll have some videos of me as well.
Any cats?
So that's just a little bit.
Yes, as much as possible.
Yes. So we have another talk tonight. So I don't know. So we'll take a break now, stretch, and we'll move on to talk a lot about what we're doing with our network gaming services. We will play games as our game platform for Android, iOS, and the web. We really wanted something that was social and cross-platform and robust.
Well, one of the things is that your social graph is actually cross-platform. My brother, for some reason, still has an iPad.
Exactly. And so we wanted to base things on a social graph that we knew about. So there's my profile. I used to have really long hair. It knows my real name. It has my profile image that's completely out of date that no one can recognize me from. And it knows that I have 218 people in my circles. So that's all really interesting stuff that we know about you, from the beginning. And it's very, very easy for you to log in with Android, because almost everyone is using the account already logged with their Android devices, at least everyone I know. And what's nice about it is we give users a lot of control. So we actually allow the user to control which circles the app can see. So if you don't want to let a developer see anything about your social circles, you can eliminate them. Now, it doesn't actually allow you to see the circles themselves. It just allows the app to see the users that are in those circles. So for example, if you have a circle named Nerdy Guys that I play games with, the app will not know that. It'll just see the people inside. Or you have a circle named People that I'm stalking on the internet. That also will not show up to the game developer. It's very, very important that those things remain private.
I have a circle that's just Dan Galvin, and it contains one person.
That's it. Is that really still a circle?
Actually, in all seriousness, I do have a circle called Wives, but I just have one in it. I'm just holding out just in case there might be issues with that. So we also allow you to, we get, the visibility goes both ways with the login. And this is actually true about all G+ login, that we allow users to set who is going to see, who you allow the app to see, and we allow the app to and we also allow you to set who can see you playing the app. So if you go to people's profiles on G+, you actually see a list of apps that this person has allowed you to see them use.
Exactly. There are.
And I should say, for most apps, this defaults to your circles. For games, it actually defaults to public, because we think people are actually pretty social about what games they're playing. I think people are proud of the games they play, unlike the sad 80s where we all had to pretend to be nerds sitting in our parents' basement. But now it's a thing that we want to share with everybody. And we think it's good for game developers as well, like you.
However, you're more than welcome to create a circle called Not My Boss, for example, which says, so you want to make sure that your boss doesn't know that you're playing video games during the day. You can easily make that happen just by changing a few things around in your circles.
Actually, my boss is good with me playing.
I would say, yeah, our boss actually doesn't mind if we play games during the day. They sort of assume we're doing research. So again, both of them, they're right there. And again, this is what Wolf was talking about, is it turns out that people want to play games with people who own more than just Android devices. Like Wolf's brother. You need to convert that man.
I hate that guy.
And even more than people who own other smartphones. So we started off as a platform saying we needed to, support as many people as the game developers are willing to actually support. We want to make sure that these platforms are accessible to more than just, a single group of people. Does anyone get this reference here, by the way?
Do you all know what platform I'm in?
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
No, wait, what is it? I don't get it. I really don't.
Really?
No, I really don't.
We can't take you anywhere.
Is this like a band?
So I think like back this half the smart part. I think that's
I actually didn't get that.
Yeah.
Is it Harry Potter?
Yes.
Oh, I get it.
We're going to go home and show them some movies.
Yeah.
Right. With our REST API, you can actually integrate this into, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of you.
No, go ahead.
We have Android, obviously we have Android compatibility. We have iOS compatibility. We have web compatibility using the standard API libraries that we provide, the JS API, it's the Google JavaScript API client.
Yes.
I
know. I will always use the internal name.
Yeah, which is
I'm really glad you actually said that. I've blurted out the internal name.
Exactly.
Like,
this is one of the terrible things about working at Google is that you know all the names of all of the things before they were launched, and then in public you're like, like Caribou. I mean Gmail. The other thing is that we have actually pure REST API. So even if you have a desktop app, you can actually also integrate all this stuff into it, including Sunday.
So the way I like to think of it,
I like to think of it as this man screaming at night.
I think of it as yawning. I hope he's not screaming. But I like to think of it as we do the boring stuff. We know how to scale things. We host the back end, we develop it, we maintain it, and people out there write games. And
there's actually a personal story here. Like when I was an indie game developer for a little bit, and this was before cloud services really got to be huge. And I actually had my own slices that I was shoving into a rack down in Santa Clara in California, and that's all really cool until I woke up one day and every single player I had emailed me, and then I actually woke up with a phone call from my brother saying, "Hey, dude, you need to deal with this." That my whole site was offline and it wasn't even responding to pings. And I was like, what? And I got up and I called the colo where we're keeping things, and they're like, oh yeah, there was a fire in your rack. And I'm well, that's kind of an important piece of data. Thank you for not calling me. So I went down there and there was this entire line of engineers we need to get into the cage and fix it. The thing is, you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be the person with the phone call going into that. We have those guys. They're really good at their job.
The best part is that if the system suddenly goes down, you can simply say, sorry, it's Google's problem. Exactly. So yeah, we want you to be able to focus on making games. So once again, here are the services we're talking about. We have achievements, leaderboards, cloud save, real-time multiplayer. And I didn't mention this before, but we actually have an anti-piracy feature. And I'll go through all these in quick detail. So achievements are great because they drive people to play your game more. Even though achievements don't mean anything in the physical world, they are a manifestation of a goal that people want to attain. And there are a lot of people, including me, who who will spend an inordinate amount of time in a game to get to final achievements.
Beyond that, too, there are also ways to incentivize people to play the game outside of the regular reward system of the game. So if your game has something like, if your game can be played in sort of more than one style, like it's a stealth game, it's a shooting game, you can actually have you can have achievements for stealth and shooting, and people will realize, oh wow, there actually is this other way to play besides the first way I discovered.
Yeah, and in fact, it's a way of forcing people to slog through the most boring parts of your game, which is always a chance to get a chance to mod.
Actually, well-written achievements shouldn't make your game more boring.
No, I know.
You must kill 17 million people.
Slog through the most boring parts of your game, or pay you to not have to slog through the most boring parts of your game. Yeah, that's where I was going with that. So leaderboards are really important because I am really motivated to basically beat any of the high scores from our business development team or marketing. No one in business development or marketing should have a higher score than I do.
And this is really about the socialness of the leaderboards. The public leaderboards are great, and if you are a really hardcore player of that game, you're going to be competing with those people on the public leaderboard. Most of us are competing against the people that we work with.
I don't have that much free time.
Yeah,
honestly.
But when I look and I see that Dan is 1,000 points ahead of me out of 70,000 points, I'm going to be playing there so that I can then post on his.
It's a way to make sure that all of your friends waste as much time as you do playing these games, and that's
it's not wasted. It's experiencing life.
That's right, and that's what we call it.
Exactly.
And then Cloud Save. This is actually for anyone on the Android team. This is a particularly good feature. It's good for all consumers, but for us especially, because we're always doing things like wiping our devices. We're putting new builds on them.
I seriously have like 10 Android devices.
I had to give back one of my devices this year that was a prototype because they said, oh, well, there's a slight chance it's going to catch on fire. So these things happen.
I was holding my phone while playing tuba. I was wearing a sousaphone. I was in a marching band. And I was trying to take a picture while we were warming up, and it slid out of my hand while I was taking the picture. The problem is I was holding the tuba with my left hand, so I couldn't reach under and grab it as it was falling, and it fell and cracked, and the capacitive screen stopped working. And actually, this was right before we launched, it was right after we launched this, and not very many games had implemented Cloud Save. And I was devastated, not because my phone was shattered, but because I'd lost all the progress on all of those games.
Yeah, I'm never going to play Angry Birds again.
Yeah.
I played it like 3 times, and that was it.
Yeah.
But it really just threw me off from playing the entire game. Now I can never get all of the things again. And so even if a new level comes out, I'm always finished with that.
The one good thing about my tragedy was that I did have a picture of the sky as I was drawing.
So we gave 4 slots, and the idea is we also want people to be able to play across multiple devices. I also own a tablet and a phone, more than one, and it's really, really nice to be able to say, look, I want to be able to play on my tablet when I am, at home, or I have my bag with me, but when I'm walking around and I don't have space necessarily, or I don't want to carry it with me, I still can play on my phone and be just as capable anywhere I am. And Cloud Save allows me to do that very transparently.
Well, it also allows you to discover the games where you are. So I'll find games while I'm at work or something like that, and I'll be like, oh, this game's really awesome. And then if it doesn't have Cloud Save, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't start this yet until I get home to my tablet. You don't want to have that. You want people to be playing right away, and when they get home, switch the other thing. So Cloud Save is really awesome.
And everything is, again, you can start your game on an Android device and continue to play on an iPad or vice versa.
Which can actually drive purchases if your game is cross-platform and somebody has it on their Android phone, and then they're like, oh, well, I want to play it on my iPad too. They give you more money. That's awesome.
That's right. Totally works for me. I think we did this because it was hard and because it really would help out indie developers. We got a lot of feedback from developers that said, we really want to put real-time multiplayer games on Android, but we don't want to have to build the infrastructure. We don't want to have to rent the infrastructure. We're trying to make games that a lot of people can play. It might be a free game, and if the game is successful and we rent the infrastructure, we're going to go out of business. No one wants to go out of business because their game is successful. So we need to do something on the platform to help us out. And so we said, well, this is a challenge. It turns out we have a whole bunch of infrastructure we already use for Hangouts. And why don't we use that to do NAT traversal? And let's build a peer-to-peer mesh network. So that's what we did. We support a 4-person peer-to-peer mesh network for game developers to take advantage of. Allows you to do real-time, high-speed multiplayer. Opens up a lot of game concepts to Android without you having to supply any of your own backend. And finally, anti-piracy. It turns out that not everyone pays for games that they play. I know this comes as a shock. And we thought, okay, well, one way in which to encourage people to pay for games is to make the experience a little bit less rich. So we're going to say, look, if a developer wants to, they have to opt into this. You don't get any cloud save, you don't get any achievements, you don't get to compete in leaderboards, and you can't use real-time multiplayer if the developer opts into anti-piracy. And so again, and they can message it however they want inside the app.
Right.
They can say, hey, if you actually bought this application, you would be able to do these.
Thank you for playing, but if
Yes.
you bought this application, you can actually you can do these other things. And I think you have to be delicate because pirates are population sometimes influence opinions, but it's a neat way that you can control what's happening to your app.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, if you really like the app that much that you want to get those achievements, then you should pay the developers so they can keep feeding their family. So that's the way I look at it, and so again, it's a value add. It's not designed to stop piracy from happening, but it is designed to give people who don't pirate the game a richer experience, and maybe encourage a few people who might have otherwise pirated the game to actually go and buy it. So here are the features across platforms. Login, share, obviously anti-piracy. We don't know whether people have bought stuff within iTunes. We don't support it there. And multiplayer is coming soon on iOS. What that exactly means, I don't know, but hopefully sometime before the end of this millennium. And that used to be funny a few years ago. And then
in 3,000 years, when the oceans
exactly, we will have multiplayer on iOS. That'll be long gone. So the other thing, what do we do for you when you actually implement it? Well, we actually put a badge in Google Play. And the cool thing about the badge is it only shows up as people start logging in. So if you highway your implementation in a little tiny corner of your application and no one ever uses it, well, then you'll never actually get badging. And this is great because it helps people know when they download the game, oh, this has got those cool features and I can add to my achievements. We also have a destination application which allows people to discover applications that their friends are playing. Go on.
Oh yeah, we released the destination application just a few weeks ago. We already have over 1 million installs. It's actually at this point the primary way I discover new games is I stalk my friends and see what they're playing and be like, that's great. I've spent a ton of money that way already.
And yeah, we've actually been pleasantly surprised. This has really done a great job of motivating people to find new games.
And we're just at the beginning of it. There's all sorts of things that we want to add.
Absolutely. I don't know what I meant by the giant cookie. I think I was really tired. But in any case.
I was thinking of these slides before I got here, and I was like, I don't get the cookie. But
what did you say about that? I think it was like one more big cookie. I don't know. Anyway, so this
I think what you were trying to say is besides just the fact that it's cool, why would you add all this?
Yeah, I know. That is what I was trying to say. But I looked at the slide now. We actually got Glue to actually release some numbers for us. So they actually had multiplayer already in Attorney Orders 2. And they ripped out their current implementation and put in a new one. And for about the first 4 days, I was terrified because their users were like, it doesn't work the way the old one worked. But after a while, they ended up being very, very happy they made that decision. And they were seeing, plus 40% 7-day retention and more play sessions per user per day. So our infrastructure was holding up very well. It was giving them what they wanted, and they continued to integrate game services features into a bunch of their other games, which are all cool as you play them. With Battle Dragons, we actually featured this in the destination app, and I think we had like 50,000 users or something like that. And people saw that, and they're like, hey, we're the most dedicated people. We've gone and downloaded this app to look for games, and it turns out that people really have been looking there for games. And it's really not that hard to do. We've had people do it on almost every single platform. Many of these have built-in integrations that have been done by the platform owners. We've worked closely with Corona and with Yo-Yo and with the guys from Marmalade. There's some great conveniences, but they actually provide a lot of this really cool UI and very important features. So in iOS, it's a downloadable framework. On Android, it's actually a thin client that, as part of Google Play services. So this is really important because that gets updated automatically by Google Play.
So I think we should clarify this because when I was listening to your talk earlier, for those of you who don't know, Google Play Services is this app that is sitting on your phone if you have all the way back to Froyo.
Yes.
And if it's not there, which it might be in the case of Froyo, as soon as an app needs it, it'll go and be taken from the Play Store. So anytime that you have a phone that's attached to the Play Store, you will eventually get this app. And then Google can push new updates to the Play Store and will update.
Yeah, and it's used both by Google's own applications as well as by third-party applications. So it's a way of opening up a lot of our web services, a lot of the cool things we want to have access to within people, developers have access to within the platform, but we want them to make revisions of all the time, typically because they're tied into cloud services that we're constantly changing. We have this platform within a platform. Basically,
and you were showing there that you can just go get it from the SDK manager.
That's right. Just right available there. So here's our game. It's an entirely original game, Angry Fruit.
By the makers of Ninja Birds.
Yeah. It's a game where you help fruit resolve their anger problems through reading, exercise, and active listening. So
we announced this. I'm expecting this game to be made at some point.
I know. It's true.
Maybe I should do it.
So we found out that we wanted people to try new modes within the game, and one of our modes isn't retaining users very well. Obviously, the way you can do that is to add achievements. Here's our new console, which is at play.facebook.com. App publish, and most importantly, it has this new thing here, which looks like an old school game controller.
No, it actually looks like a new school game controller. That looks like an old school game controller.
That's true. Let's be very clear.
Back in my day, we didn't have your joystick.
I don't know what you're talking about. That thing has 4 buttons. Real joysticks only have 1 button. All right, so
we're really old. Yeah. Actually, my advisor in grad school worked on was at MIT when they were building the original like Space War game, and they would build their own joysticks out of wood. And so he really was like, back in my day, we used wood in our joysticks.
We took our joysticks and we got them from military surplus from jet fighters. We liked it that way.
Actually, just while repairing my microphone here, which is committed.
It might actually be.
I think it matters. I'll just shout.
Yeah.
But he would say that they would actually rig the game by building the joysticks. They would cheat by making better joysticks. At one point, they even had a button that would make the other guy, a foot button that would make the other guy's ship move slower. So that was old school cheating right there. Okay, anyway, going all the way back to the future, however. So here we are. We made Angry Fruit.
You set up the name, you set up the stuff in the project. This is
all really standard app publishing stuff.
Absolutely. The difference is that these are additional resources that show up only in the destination app. So,
right.
So in addition to all the stuff you put on for a game, you would also put this here. This actually allows it to be different than what's actually showing up in Google Play. So what you put into Google Play, when you actually go to publish the APK, shows up only in Google Play. This thing shows up, whatever's in here, shows up in the destination application. That's a very subtle distinction. It looks like you're putting in everything twice. It actually is 2 sets of data. If we ever made something for like the web, this is where we would pull it from, not from Google Play. So just to make that clear as mud. And this is also where you control things like what APIs you're using. Currently, you can turn whether or not you're using real-time multiplayer, or if you want anti-piracy features. So it's up to the developer whether they want people who've stolen their game to be able to actually use Google Play services.
Yes. There's a common error. You're like, hey, this keeps returning 403. I don't understand.
All right, so this is a great example of what not to do. One, this little bit of text here.
Okay, hold on. What we're doing here is we're creating a client ID that allows your app to be uniquely identified and against builds from particular machines. You have to put in your both the package name, which is partly a unique identification, and you have to put in the SHA-1 key. And those of you who are Android development, you know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and the real key thing, actually, I just want to make sure that we cover this, just because I'm going to say something that you might not expect. So first of all, you'll notice that the key we're using is this example key. Okay, that's just an example. Don't paste it in.
Yeah, people actually do that. Like,
Yeah.
we have seen that.
And
don't be that guy.
It will mess things up. Second thing is that actually, if we've pre-filled this, you want to verify that it's right. Because don't take our word for it that whatever's in there in that box is actually your correct key. It's really, really important that you get this right. I also recommend that you actually use, the first time you create a client, you're going to want to create probably two clients, one for your release key store and one for your debug key store. You're going to want to create the one for your release keys first, because that should be your primary client. Okay? You should never you should never develop a client on Android using what you plan to release with. Typically, that's a great thing to do as part of your process, and you should never. You can't actually release anything on Google Play with your debug key store.
Right.
So again, it's very, very easy to find out what your key store is. Your debug key store is actually installed here, or if you're on Windows, it's here.
You can also get it out of the interface in Eclipse as well.
Exactly.
It's like Windows, or it's like preferences, Android build, and you'll actually see the key store there.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So the point, but if you don't know where it is, this is where it is, and again, your release key store you're going to have to do on your own. It doesn't show up in the build.
There's magic. Eclipse actually has a whole little wizard that'll make it.
Exactly. No, but it doesn't show you the SHA-1 as part of the wizard. That's the thing, is you want to actually print the SHA-1 for your release.
Oh, that's right, and you actually have to run key tool on.
Yeah.
Right.
So
All right.
that's why I put that out. So this is actually where we end up setting it up for you in. You will not need to use this for play games.
Yes.
Okay.
Do that.
If you've used the Google API console before,
Not that isn't a lovely console.
It is, but we allow you to avoid it entirely. So let's talk a little bit about code, because I find that if I stand up here and don't show any code, people think that I'm just faking it.
And I'd like to point that we managed to get a cat into this.
It's very important because we want to make sure we bring cats to the farthest corners of the internet. And
that's more or less why we invented Hangouts.
Yeah. So,
in all seriousness, I have had 3 cats and 1 hamster hangout, and the cats were like, "This is awesome."
So this is where you actually go to find out all this stuff, by the way, game services. We also have really awesome sample code that you can help contribute to, find bugs in, etc. That is at GitHub.
We have it on GitHub. And it is worth noting that the game services stuff is in developers.google.com, not developer.android.com, although there are links back and forth between the two, because it's part of Play Service, or it's part of Google Play Services rather than just Android.
And these samples are more than just samples. They actually provide a fantastic little framework library that wraps most of the boilerplate code that you would need to use the service. Because we give you a lot of flexibility as to how you want to handle error messages, a lot of flexibility as to how you want to handle our UI. Most of the time, you really just want to do the same thing. So these samples actually all use the same library as their base. We're actually not going to show you how to use the library in this presentation, but it's very, very simple. It makes
you really all you need to do is, instead of having your activity extend activity, you have to extend base game activity, and like sign in mostly just works.
Yeah, and if you can't do that, we actually moved all the code into this thing called Game Helper. So if you want, you can just call Game Helper from the appropriate places in your activity. Look what base game activity does. It's very, very simple.
Yeah, check it out. It's good stuff.
So the way this works is like almost any other API in Google Play Services. How many people here have actually used any of the Play Services APIs? Maps, or okay.
Well, Ikai has. That's good.
Yeah, thanks. Maps, YouTube, sign in. All right. So all of these actually have a state they have to maintain, and part of that is they want to make sure, one, that we know that Google Play Services are there, that they're up to date, and that the user has actually agreed to allow your app to use access to their personal data. So all these things are very important. The library wants to handle all these states for you. For the most part, you just need to respond correctly. So once again, on create, very simple. On start, you connect, and on stop, you disconnect. And this sounds like it's doing a lot. It actually doesn't do very much. It simply tells the service, all right, you can stop hanging around and doing things with this app for a while. But it's actually a very, very lightweight connection and disconnection process. However, if your connection fails, you will end up getting an error. Now, that error might be you need to get a new version of Google Play Services. Or it might be there is something catastrophically wrong that we can't recover from. But most likely, this error is going to be something that returns an intent that you then have to fire off to start an activity, which is going to be, hey, we need to pop up the dialog so the user agrees to let you use some of their personal data. So this is what actually a game shows during non-connected. This game shows the username. That's my name. It's actually.
It will also do a pop-up from inside Google Play Services that says, "Hey, you just logged in."
It's so hard to capture. But yes, no, it's true. It does. It actually only shows the pop-up once per day. But yeah, so this is the way my name shows up inside of Riptide 2. If you haven't played Riptide 2, it's awesome. It has great multiplayer implementation. Did you die again? And you can do all of this in iOS as well. Yeah. So
sorry.
Once again, and what you'll notice about these APIs, the Android one is really tuned to the Android way of doing things. The iOS one is tuned to the iOS way of doing things. We didn't just take the Android things and thrust them onto the iOS users. We really thought what makes sense in terms of iOS.
We thrust a lot of things on iOS.
So yes, you can see here you actually specify your scope. In this case, we specify game scope.
How many of you guys do iOS development? Anybody?
All right. Okay, great.
We love everyone in YouTube.
Exactly.
Keep going, sorry.
So once again, you call authenticate, you finish with auth, and you eventually end up getting these auth handlers, and then boom, you then can prompt them to do the correct thing. It actually uses the key change, as you can see, the way you expect something that does this under iOS to do, and we get them signed in. Now, achievements are really important, as we talked about a lot. They encourage users to engage with your content. This is actually what the standard achievements UI looks like in iOS. So we see we have 3 different kinds of achievements: unlocked, hidden, and locked, showing up in this list. We also support 2 different modes of getting an achievement. We either have these traditional ones where I do something and immediately unlocks, or I have incremental achievement, like this one where I crash 50 cars, and because I am super unsafe, I end up getting an achievement for doing that. So here's how you set that up in the console. You give it a name. You give it a description. These are actually important because they show up in our UI, even if your UI doesn't use them. And then we also give it an icon. We like that because we want people to feel like there's value in getting these achievements. And if you use the same icon for every one of them, it just makes them less valuable. Also, you specify whether or not it's incremental or not. We go back to that. Take me a second here. All right, you specify whether it's incremental or not, how many steps there are. You can only have 10,000 steps. We're sorry. What we found actually is some people really wanted more than that, and it meant that they were doing crazy stuff like calling calling our methods again and again and again. And so this actually caused the only problems we've had with people going over their per session API quota, which is very high. But it turns out that in the rare case that you have an application where it's kill 50,000 soldiers or kill 10,000 soldiers, and that is something that can happen, hundreds of times a second. Just call every once in a while and say increment. Don't call the end.
Yeah, the kind of errors. You have the endless runner that says you get an achievement for you to run 1 minute.
Yes.
And then at the end of 1 minute, for 60 frames a second, you're constantly unlocking that achievement. We will eventually throttle you.
Yeah, exactly. We'll eventually say, sorry, you're doing something wrong, and we're not going to let you take down the server. So yes, you can also choose list order, and you can give it points. We actually give you a list of maximum of 1,000 achievement points, so we can actually give them value across games eventually.
We're not using that value yet, but
never know what'll happen. And then you end up getting this very, very cool looking ID. You get those for all the achievements that you set up. You can put the ID into your game very, very easily. In this case, as a static string. and you can unlock it using this kind of fire forget method, just the way you'd expect. Or you can actually get you can actually put in an achievement update listener in, and so you'll actually get a notification when an achievement's unlocked. And obviously that's really useful for things where you have incremental achievements. You might want to say, cool, I've unlocked this, and in this case, let's reveal a hidden achievement and let's turn on the bonus level. And you can do this, and it'll actually get displayed like this with a little toast on Android. You can choose where that toast is going to go. You can also choose what view it goes on, and you can also choose whether it shows up in the corner or in the center like this as default. So you can make it pop up in the most obtrusive part of their game possible.
No, I mean, that is something you plan for. Like, you want to make sure you're popping achievements when people are not doing something really difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. You can also display an activity showing all of their current achievements for the game. So you grab this intent, you fire it off, you get this pretty UI, you go through all the work. Don't like it? You can also do it yourself. So again, you just get the raw data, and you can do all sorts of cool stuff with achievement UI. On iOS, it's almost exactly the same. You've got the same achievement ID. You can unlock it. Again, fire and forget method. You can also get a completion handler. So here that allows you to find out whether or not you have unlocked an incremental achievement, and you can respond in the same way inside of your completion handler by, in this case, activating bonus mode and also revealing a hidden achievement. So, and again, this is what it looks like on iOS. And you can actually bring up this achievement delegate here as a mode view controller, and boom, you now have our achievements UI. Very, very simple to do under iOS. So, leaderboards. Leaderboards are really cool because you've got social ones. You've got people who've got scores you will never ever beat, but it's kind of cool to see that people can do them, and hopefully they're not all cheating. We also have, public leaderboards that show that. We also have social leaderboards to have your friends. In this case, you can see that the vice president of Android product got a much higher score than everyone. That really shouldn't happen. I think it's just because he was giving his presentation originally. No, this is his slide. What's cool about them is that you can actually, again, see the people that you actually know. You can also see them for different time periods. You can actually look at the weekly one leaderboard, the monthly leaderboard. So here's how you create a new one. We actually have a bunch of UI that looks a lot like the achievement one. You say, give it a name. You say what you want it to be formatted as. I'll talk about a little bit about what that means later. You also can specify things like its icon. Once again, it's going to give them icons, makes them feel more valuable. Set ordering, and say where this is shown in the list. You can change the order of these after you've created them.
You can also make them count up and count down. So golf, obviously, you want low.
Exactly.
You also set bounds. So if you know mathematically.
Yeah, if you know it's impossible to get a score higher than this, you can stop silly cheaters from actually going and submitting scores beyond the bounds of what the game can actually do. One thing to note about these is that they are 64-bit integers. So we will format them however you like. It's time, it's currency. Note when we say currency, typically games use the same currency throughout the game. This doesn't mean that one person sees 10 kroners, another person sees euros.
We convert gold. We convert gold pieces into euros.
Yeah, but at least in terms of formatting, they show up based upon what would be appropriate for their locale. And then, again, it's very, very easy just to handle these. You can just submit scores. You can also get callbacks. What would you use a callback on your word for? It means because you've beaten someone who you need to then taunt with, a Google Plus interactive post, for example. So you can display them. You can display all the leaderboards this way. This is Asphalt 8, which was just released today, which is awesome. You should try it out. It's free to play. And they support a really great implementation of leaderboards. These are all leaderboards they put within their game. And you can also get the leaderboard for individual. You can also get the individual leaderboard display within your game. So you can do the same thing on iOS. Very straightforward. Submitting a score. And you can analyze this to a report to find out whether you've beaten someone. So once again, this is what the leaderboard display looks like in iOS. And this is an example of a custom leaderboard that we did for Android.
Because we give you all the raw data to use any way you want.
And this is actually very accurate because Bruno wrote the game. And as you can see, he's 14th place. And there's nothing that makes Bruno happier than having people who've played the game more than him. So, but this is a very, very cool way of doing a custom leaderboard. As you can see, you can really, really make it feel very much a part of the game. My favorite feature, of course, is cloud save, because I have way too many devices and not enough time to replay my games.
I don't have time to find them in this giant stack of devices.
Yeah, and there's nothing like unlocking all 30 levels on Angry Fruit by using an incredible amount of Zen, and then having them all get locked again.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have that much Zen. So it's very simple and
It
streamlined.
becomes Angry Daniel.
Yeah, exactly. So we can use things like Google Drive and App Engine to also do cloud save. And so what I like to think about this is that cloud save is really good at doing one thing. Like a cheese grater is really good at grating cheese. Okay? Wow, Google Drive and App Engine are kind of like a chainsaw. Okay? So, chainsaws are really great at cutting down trees and carving ice sculptures and fighting zombies. But, if you really want to create cheese, they're just not really things that easy to use. And, you might end up grating your fingers off. So, cloud save is designed to be very, very simple and straightforward. We give you 4 slots. Each one of those slots can have up to 128K worth of save data. You can use them, let's say, to store different aspects of your save game. This allows you to be really, really efficient as to how you update your cloud save. So you have to update all of your save data at once. We give you 4 slots because we hope that you won't be able to get 4 slots of save data wrong, to be honest. So again, we just want to update my avatar. And we allow for the ability for multiple devices to be playing against the same cloud save at once. What this means is that you may end up with collisions. And there are 2 ways you can do this. One is to actually have 2 devices that are playing at the same time. The other thing is one device may be playing while you're offline. One of the great things we do in the Android and iOS version of Play Games is we actually handle all the offline stuff for you. So we actually keep a database of all of the achievements you unlock, all of your leaderboard scores, and the next time you get on the network on Android, or the next time you play the game on iOS, we'll upload those achievements and leaderboards. This also happens with cloud save. So, for example, if you're playing one game on one device, have another device that doesn't always have network, like a tablet, don't realize this, you'll end up with a conflict. But normally what ends up happening is it just sends you back the data. Pretty awesome. Okay, this allows you to keep things between devices or from an old device to a new device. And you can update the data very simply, and normally you just get, cool, I've updated the data. But sometimes you try to update the data, and there's a version up there that is clearly newer than what you're trying to update. You end up getting a conflict. And you can then choose to do what you'd like with this conflict. Okay? If you can resolve it by asking the user, say, hey, which one of these do you want? You can try to be intelligent and say, hey, actually it looks like I can resolve this automatically because I can see that there are where
you're going to take the union of the levels they've unlocked.
Exactly. Like in the case of Angry Fruit, really, really easy. They just unlock levels and they get stars. So we're going to take the highest levels they've unlocked, we're going to give them their best stars. In some games, it may not be that easy to actually combine cloud save
a role-playing game that you explore different dungeons.
Exactly. You might end up having consumable items, and you obviously can't combine those together in any normal way. Or it's difficult. So again, it works just like Games Client. It's actually a separate client. So AppState is part of Google Play Game Services, but it's also a separate service.
So if you're making a game, making an app that is not a game but would also benefit from cloud save, you can do it without having to invoke the cloud login or the game's login icons or anything like that. You can keep it all professional.
Exactly. We're not encouraging the use of that yet, mostly because we're slowly building this out, but it is possible. Again, it's very simple. You can load, and you can list, and you can update states very, very straightforwardly once you've gotten that client. And then if, for some reason, while you're trying to do an update, or at the beginning, you can actually get it in both places, because what might have happened is you might have been playing the game before, and you might have saved something to your state, and now that you're on the network again, and it's connected, and you actually get a conflict. So this can happen right at the beginning of your session as well. And you'll end up getting this conflict. You can then resolve it. OS has exactly the same thing. I'm not going to go into any detail, but here's some code. It's an Objective-C. Yeah, again, you get a lot of brackets. Cool. You get a completion handler once again if you have a conflict. They can then come in and handle it. Works almost exactly the same as the Android version. So, again, it's good to put up code just to show you we thought about these things. Ta-da! So, real-time multiplayer. I'm not going to go into a great deal here because this is a huge topic.
Well, there's 100 ways. There's not only the aspects of the API, but there's also just like multiplayer game design is really complicated. Depending on whether you need to do collision resolution for thousands of objects all at the same time, like a racing game where the cars are smashing into each other, versus just like a turn-based game or something like that. It's going to be very different. So, and go over the skill.
Complicated means fun. Okay, that's the programming term for fun.
Yeah.
Real-time, if you want to see a really great game, again, check out Riptide 2. It has a great implementation of real-time multiplayer, despite the fact that our demo failed at Google I/O. It really does work quite well. And there are more games that use it other than this, but it's really good, so I like showing pictures of it. It's shiny. So here is what a max creation screen looks like. So first of all, you can do a couple things here. You can pick from your friends. You can also say, I want auto-pick players for additional slots. I want to guarantee that I have a match against 4 players. So you can actually set up, I want 2 players at random. Here's the thing, is even if those players end up being, by some random circumstance, people within your circles, because you've been auto-matched against them, if you say I want to auto-match someone, they will not appear to you and you will not appear to them. Okay?
Yeah,
you'll be anonymous automatically. Okay, and this is very, very important. Okay, because so even if my boss was in my circles, if I am playing with automatch, I am by definition playing anonymously. He will not know that I just wiped him out of the game. All right, very important.
So this goes all the way back to how we're allowing apps to see certain people and not seeing certain people.
So you start off by creating a room, and when an invitation comes in, it actually will come in with an ID. So that allows you to join someone's room.
Yeah, and a room is basically the abstraction for putting people together. 2 to 4 players,
yeah,
all sort of together in this virtual place.
Yeah. So a room is a place where people are connected by a network. Let's just be clear. There is no separate thing of I'm in a game or I'm in a room. A room is that thing that allows me to communicate and be social. Like I'm standing here in front of you and talking to you all, except that I'd be limited to a very small room of 3 other people. So once again, waiting for players.
We actually provide both a standard API that you can use for player matching and auto matching in waiting rooms, or you can actually just implement your own if you have a pre-existing interface that users are used to, or you have some special thing you want to do.
Or you just have a lot of free time.
Yeah. But one of the things that's cool about using the standard interface is that players will already know how it works. Yes. They'll know what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely, we hope. So we have 2 different kinds of messages in our mesh network. You can send reliable ones, which are guaranteed to arrive, as much as any network message is guaranteed to arrive. They'll guarantee to arrive, otherwise your whole session will end.
Yeah.
Or you can send unreliable messages, which will arrive a lot faster. And they'll most of the time arrive in your network.
Well, they will most of the time they will arrive, and most of the time they will arrive in order.
Yes.
You can think of the top one as sort of TCP-like, and the unreliable is more like UDP.
Yeah. So, the only thing that's interesting about the top one is that today, reliable messages are always going to bounce off our servers. So even if you have the ability to have a mesh network where your topology allows them to be connected on the same Wi-Fi network, that will always connect to our servers. So it's always going to be slow, potentially.
Well, relatively slow compared to unreliable.
Well, if you're in the same room on the same network, unreliable messages actually avoid the hop to our servers, so you can go straight to the other device. So you can have very, very fast local sessions against friends.
Experimentally, if you try this, you can set off the unreliable stuff. Tends to go unreliable either in adverse network environments, or more frequently you're jamming the channel with like too many messages, and it's like, okay, I've run out of room, so I'm just going to drop some and do new ones later.
So once again, auto match allows you to match people who are not in your circles, and auto-match people cannot read your personal info. Okay, just to make sure people know that. So another thing we can do is we can actually discover games using real-time multiplayer. How do you do that? Well, someone invites you, or you invite someone to a game that's a game they don't have yet. And what happens in this case? Well, we'll get a notification saying, hey, this person that I know, because they're in my circles, and I'm in their circles, has invited me to a game. That's great. I get an invitation. Well, I think this, who's invited me? Oh, it's that guy. I know him. He plays games that are good. So I'm going to say, I'm going to accept this invitation, which takes me now to the Play Store to install this game that happens to have real-time multiplayer. Super sticky and gulp. Great. I download the game, and once the game's downloaded and installed, and he's been waiting there for a long time, it actually allows me to start a match and play with him. Okay, so once again,
this is a viral channel for you to spread your multiplayer game around.
Exactly. And you know, multiplayer game does not have to be something sophisticated like what Riptide 2 does. You know, again, there may be very, very simple challenges within the framework of a larger game that you can do within multiplayer. Think about mini games and how even just adding a simple mini game to your game can actually make it really, really viral in terms of multiplayer, as long as it's fun and people want to do it, of course. So, here's our self-aware summary. We've got new services. Leaderboards, achievements, cloud safe, real-time multiplayer. These help you increase discovery, yay. We've got libraries and tools for iOS and Android. We gave you a brief overview and showed a lot of Objective-C, more than you can normally see in an Android meeting. And, oh, we also have the summary. Okay, and we also talked about things like the destination app, things I didn't bother putting in there. I didn't want to make this slide any longer. All right, so thank you very much. And that ends our part of the GDG tonight. So by now we'll open this up to questions. We still have some swag here, which I'm told.
That's on everybody's mind. What's happening to the swag?
Yeah, which I'm told we can give away, right? So yeah, sure.
All right, I give this away to me.
Woo! Wait. I want the acronym one. No, sorry. So in all seriousness, are there any questions from your crowd? That we've done a lot of talking. My voice is really, really tired. I probably wasn't clear about everything. Anything we didn't get, I was talking really fast. Let me. This is your chance to ask us not just about the presentation, but about anything about Android. We may or may not know the answer. We may or may not be able to answer. We're here. We come from Mountain View, and it's not often I get to Prague. So.
Train all night.
Yeah, poor Wolf ended up getting stuck in the German train system. It was very exciting.
So, the German bus system.
And the bus system, yeah. He came by train and bus. I came by plane and subway. It worked out. So seriously, any questions?
And if not, then we can take questions offline.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, how well does it perform on devices that are, let's say, completely offline? You can use the cloud safe for local safe for devices which say, get never online.
So if a device never ever goes online, they can never sign up for the services. First of all, so they have to be online to sign in the first time. Okay, otherwise you'll end up getting one of those unrecoverable errors that can happen saying user's offline. So the expectation is that the device will go online every once in a while. Once they've been online the first time, so okay for the services. However, once it's been offline, there's not a lot of value to cloud save if you never ever save to the cloud. It's got to go online at some point. I know that sounds silly, but it's actually, otherwise it's never going to have any backup. The game can continue to save into the local cache of cloud save, and the next time it goes online, however long the distance between those times is, it'll still be able to take advantage of cloud save. And achievements and leaderboards, of course, are fine. So you have to collect all of your achievements and go through all the rest of the gameplay completely offline. You'll be able to see your own scores, as useful as that is in the leaderboards as well.
And there's a caveat to that, which is that if you ask for an immediate response to the leaderboard submission and you're offline, then it will return like, hey, I can't connect to the network. But if you use the fire and forget methods that we were talking about, then it'll just store it until later.
Yeah, actually, and one other note is, I should say it doesn't really work for leaderboards because for leaderboards we actually rely on the server to do formatting. So we actually can't display the leaderboard until the servers responded back, which makes sense. I mean, you're more interested in how you work with everyone else, but because we can actually update that on the server time and decide if we need new formatting. But because you rely on that, you'll actually never see a leaderboard until after the servers responded to it. So that's another minor inflection point there. But certainly things like achievements will just continue to work. You'll be able to continue to get them, and users' experience will be completely normal offline.
And one more question.
Yeah, sure.
With being offline, so is there a way to automatically sync whatever happens in the cloud, say in the cloud, when my device goes online once in a while, but my game is not running?
Yeah. So what will happen is if the device goes online and the game is not running, it'll automatically sync it on Android. On iOS, we don't have the ability to run services in the background, so you'll have to wait for someone to actually launch the game to do that sync. We'll continue to maintain it in a local database, but there's that extra step. Now that being said, if there's a conflict when that happens in the background, then we will have to respond to that the next time the game is loaded.
Right.
So there is this case where there's a conflict, and that won't happen automatically. But assuming you're not playing the game in two places between synchronizing that one online, then everything will work normally. Okay, I know everyone's like, oh, everyone's cloud save is so easy. And you're like, oh, there are some corner cases you have to deal with. And that's actually, but it's probably the feature with the most real user benefit. I mean, the last thing I want is someone not to upgrade their Android handset because they're trying to get through a game. Let's let them get to cool in the handset and let them experience it on the game, higher resolution and looking more awesome, all that kind of stuff. We're seeing with the handsets.
I'm interested more about the messaging.
Mm-hmm.
Fast and reliable, or reliable and slow.
Yes.
Why two solutions if actually you need more one than the other? I mean, either you choose one system and
Well, if you think about TCP and the difference between UDP.
You're talking about technology, but you're talking about users.
Well, the trick is that there are games that unreliable messages are just fine. So if your game network architecture is you pick one of the 4 players to be the server and everybody else is a client to that. That's like how Halo works, things like that. They have Halo actually now, the old Halo, the original Halo, would like Quake has one guy as a server and everybody else is a thing. That guy has the true picture of the world and is spraying out updates to everybody else, saying, all right, now I'm over here, now I'm over here, now I'm over here. And in that case, UDP is fine, because if one of those updates gets lost, nobody cares.
And actually, typically what ends up happening, you can't send the updates quickly enough to really move that character in real time on all the other devices anyways. What the other devices are doing is they're trying to interpolate points, and they're trying to guess where you're going to be moving based upon your current.
And then as the UDP updates come in, it's like, all right, well, we'll just put them over there now. And you actually, in some games, if you actually go back and play like Tribes, you can see the bullets like start warping because it knew that it was supposed to hit that guy, but that guy's over there, so all of a sudden the bullets.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of subtleties. So in that case, you would use unreliable network updates to spray this stuff out because speed is way more important than accuracy.
But there are times you need to know, like, game is over.
So, game is over. You're dead is reliable.
Yeah.
Or, another example would be if you're playing a game like Pictionary. You don't want to lose you don't want to lose pixels as the guy's drawing. So you're gonna.
Well, even in that case, you might want to interpolate drawing, for real time.
Well, I was going to say, actually, now that you say that,
Yeah.
I had an example. I used to work at Close.
You're mentioning 2 ways of playing according to 2 kinds of messages.
Yes.
So why offer the choice?
We
have actually 2 kinds on the same game.
Because okay, I guess so. There are many game scenarios in which you need to use both kinds of messages. There are many games, like for example, the big example is you're in the middle of Riptide, and you want to update the player.
The game that you're talking about have to choose.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's the options are never given to the user. They're always based on what the developer user-facing features.
Which kind of message to send?
Yeah, based upon the architecture of the game.
You can use both.
Yeah. At the same time.
And in fact, many games will. So Riptide uses the
That's what I
unreliable.
want to understand.
Yeah, we tried
Oh,
that.
sorry, yeah, you know, it's not like when you're starting up the game, you're like,
Yeah, I was like,
remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I can
so-
see how that would be bad, yeah.
Yeah, that would be, don't do it, don't do the
Depending on how
game
your
that
game is
way.
structured, you will use different kinds of messages.
Yeah, so Riptide does unreliable like position updates, but it does a reliable message to say, this person has finished the game.
Well, and actually, you know, I wrote a drawing game where you can watch the other guy draw, and you can see it happen on both things, and I'm using UDP to update. But as soon as they let go, I was actually doing Hangout, so when you mouse up, then it sends a complete copy of what the picture should look like. So if you happen to draw pixels as you're going along, so you have this really nice, smooth, interactive, one-to-one, low latency thing. Both the game, but whenever you stop, you get a perfect copy.
Yeah.
And again, in practice, you will find that if you are in relatively good networks, you're not going to drop a lot of those packets. It's not like it's not like some like 1 out of every 7 get through or something. But we just don't guarantee it.
Yeah, you see, again, you see the same thing when you're streaming video. You'll typically stream video in unreliable mode, and you'll see frames getting dropped, and that's okay because it just goes on and reads the next frame, or you'll see a glitch occasionally depending on how the video decoder is implemented. So, all right. So, and yes.
I have a question about the badges in the Play Store.
It's not badging, yes.
Badges in the Play Store.
Yeah.
So is there a badge for cloud save?
There is not a badge for cloud save.
Because I think it's one of the best features.
I wish there was a badge for cloud save. The reason why there isn't is because it technically is part of app state and not part of the games, as far as I understand it. I think that in the long term, we will probably do something about that in terms of being able to provide that functionality. But yeah, it's a common question from users.
Well, one of the patterns we've seen develop as developers are implementing cloud save is that, or implementing Play services, is that if they have cloud save in their game, they're usually pretty aggressive when the game starts up to say, hey, this game uses cloud save, don't you want to be part of this awesomeness? I mean, they don't say exactly, unless it was like a surfing game. But,
my game would totally do that.
yeah, it was totally
Part of this
awesome.
awesomeness.
You look at Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
But the games that don't have cloud save can be a little mellower because it's not as important. Because you don't want to be in a situation where you're like, I gotta find my, my old phone that I was playing this on just to log in once so I can get the data over. So the cloud save ones are usually a little bit more aggressive, but in a nice way. And it's one of those things where you're providing a value proposition to the user. You're saying like, if you sign in, you get cloud save.
Yeah. That being said, I do hope that someday we make it easier to find games that use cloud save because I don't want to have
you that this doesn't use cloud save.
Yeah,
So-
actually, it's more you realize the game that you're downloading does not use cloud save. Otherwise, I won't play it. So,
Yeah, or at least you know not to start it on while you're at work. You go home and take your tablet.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Can you use cloud save for saving application state?
Yes, absolutely. That's why we've broken it out from games. And so it's not when you log in, you don't get the little joystick icon next to your name. It's like that.
Can you use any of those services without Google account?
No, it's all tied into Google identity. So
And there's lots of reasons for that. I mean, part of it is
mostly it's we need a way of identifying.
We need to safely identify it, and we need to safely identify that you are the right person to access this information. One of the questions we get is whether or not if I have implemented cloud save and I'm a developer, I've implemented cloud save, I've got 200,000 users who are all cloud saves, can I run like a map reduce across their save game information? And the answer is kind of no, mostly no, because you need a valid access token from the user to get access to their data. It's like it's kind of their data, not it's not being stored in your server. It's being stored in their data.
It actually, the way we look at it is their data, and all they're doing.
I mean, if you think about it, like when you save normally and it's saved on your phone, you don't get access to that unless the game is running. It's the same thing.
You can use anything else regarding the Google ID.
But yeah, you have to sign in with Google Plus because you need to create.
That's how we do all of that.
So the Google account has to have the Google Plus enabled.
Yes.
And if they don't, I believe
Yeah,
it actually pops up.
Yeah,
and say, hey, that's not a Google Plus account.
you want to upgrade to Google, and there's actually like, there's multiple flow. If they don't even have a Google account, they'll actually run them through the entire Google sign up. Then sign up to Google Plus, then finally return the thing.
But I mean, again, Google Plus is how we do all of our access control. So if we had some random account, we couldn't do any of that.
But yeah, I mean, there are people who have like really old Gmail accounts who are, there's several moments where we've changed how we're storing this stuff. You can run these things, it's kind of exciting. But in this case, it's just like, you must have a Google Plus.
One more question.
Sure.
Can you set some time for your achievements regarding your cloud save? Let's say you can get the achievement, but it will be lost in a week.
No, achievements are gained in
Okay, anything else? Is there any time modality for the cloud save?
For cloud
For
save,
save
no.
or
For cloud save, your application, you can clear the user's cloud
I
save.
mean, you can look at, you can be like, this was last saved at time T.
I mean, like, don't save this to cloud save if it's older than anything, or just forget about the achievement if it's more than.
For achievements, once you've submitted cloud save to a local service, it's going to get up there unless there's a conflict. So
Yeah, you can't cancel out your.
and achievements always get up there. So achievements are automatically conflict resolved by the system if there is one. So meaning that if you unlock an achievement on one device, it'll automatically be unlocked on the other device once it's synced. If you unlock it in both places at the same time, it'll merge that.
Since they're basically bits that can only be flipped to one.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question.
Sure.
Just back to the cloud save, where the question was whether we're able to access the user data. You said that
It gets a pop-up that says this application has access to this cloud save data. Now, if you have, let's say, a server that wants to have access to that data, you can create a client for that server to have access to that data. A client within our Google APIs becomes a web version of the game, and then you can pop up another dialog and say, I want to give the web version of the game access to the cloud save data, as an example.
Well, I think actually you can ask for offline access in